Vishwa Talks is a series of weekly webinars hosted every Saturday, international and 2 national research fellowships, including the first scholar to receive the UK Visiting Nehru Fellow at Victoria and Albert Museum, London, UNESCO Fellow for Art History, UNSW Senior Fellow, Sydney, Exeter Research Fellow, UK. She is awarded as Tagore National Senior Fellow at National Museum, Delhi for 2019 to 21, a very prestigious one for the Government of India. Dr. Chudamani Garu's highest achievement is working for the UNESCO nomination dossier on Ramappa Temple and a scholarly volume on Ramappa Temple covering tangible and intangible cultural heritage. She's played a key role in the recommendation for the inscription of Ramappa Temple, the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Dr. Chudamani Nandagopal Garu is a prolific writer with 20 international publications and 100 published papers to her credit. In addition, she worked on a research project with India Sri Lanka Foundation on Amravati and Anuradhapura. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite our speaker to start today's Vishwa Talk. She will be talking about the art traditions, concepts, and the elements about Ramappa Temple. In our history books, we have seen, especially in Andhra, we have seen very little of Andhra history ever spoken about our temples, about our forts, whether it is, we have probably 5-6 very beautiful forts in our Andhra, Telangana, and they are not spoken about, and our next generation is not aware about. Vishwa Talks wanted to do some talks on each of these forts and temples, and we were very lucky to have Dr. Chudamani Garu to come, who has done so much of research to talk to us about it. So welcome, please.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you, Shivani ji, for that wonderful introduction. And Paramparaa, who have contacted me. And I'm very happy to be part of Vishwa Talks today, and would like to share my research and work at Ramappa, one of the very important, research, pioneering, I can say, in this particular field. So I'll start sharing with my PPT so that, will not waste much of time. Yeah. So I would like to compliment the Vishwa team for creating this wonderful creatives, and also Mr. Pramod Reddy Garu contacting me and inviting for this talk today. So it was my proud privilege, I can say, that the government of Telangana and Kakatiya Heritage Trust invited me to work on Ramappa Temple, keeping in view for the nomination of UNESCO World Heritage recognition. So we had a very wonderful team to work, and we all worked as one family, ASI from Delhi and Telangana government and Heritage Department, all the officers from Heritage Department, and Kakatiya Heritage Trust, and many others, individuals, officers, those who are connected with the property of Ramappa. It was a Herculean task to work on UNESCO dossier and recognition. And with all their efforts, we were successful. And, I can say that we deserve this honor and recognition because of our efforts, continuous efforts. It's not just today. It's more than 25 to 30 years this, efforts were going on in this direction. So when we got on 25th July 2021, Ramappa Temple inscribed as 39th UNESCO World Heritage Site for India. What is so great about it? In South India, we had only 4 world recognized, that is UNESCO World Heritage Sites, 2 in Karnataka and 2 in Tamil Nadu. Karnataka, it was Pattadakal group of temples in Karnataka, and Hampi. These 2 were the world recognized heritage site. And in Tamil Nadu, it was Brihadeshwara Temple Tanjore and Mahabalipuram group of monuments. And all these were recognized before 1937. So for almost after 1937, we did not have 1987, I'm sorry, 1987. After 87, we have not received any kind of, recognition for any of the sites in South India. So we were all just, trying. I suggested even Amaravati, they were trying to, even, the efforts are going on. And I wish that, we should get that, the tag of UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has a great importance because of my research on Amaravati and Anuradhapura made me to, in the ancient world, what was the role of Amaravati in this part of the world? So I feel that, that is due. We should work for that, and we must get that recognition for Andhra. So this was a great, I can say that, great moment of pride to have 39th UNESCO World Heritage Site as Ramappa. As soon as we got around 3:30 or so, it was inscribed. After a detailed deliberation for almost 21 countries participated in the discussion. And finally, when they said that we are inscribing Ramappa Rudreshwara Ramappa Temple as 39th UNESCO World Heritage Site. Within a few moments or within half an hour or so, we got the Twitter from G. Krishna Reddy Garu, our Minister for Culture, and our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji. So this is the picture they have immediately sent, and they have expressed their feelings for the whole work that was carried for recognizing Ramappa Temple. And these are the 3 people I have put this picture. They are the first level team who were working more than 2 decades. So they are Professor Panduranga Rao from Warangal, professor in engineering, and he was the principal, and he had been working on the material culture of Ramappa since quite some time and proved why Ramappa should have the universal value. And Papa Rao Garu, IAS, he is one of the crucial players who worked for the Ramappa recognition from all perspectives. A matured, high profile officer is needed for such work. And Surinarayan Murthy, the architect, who was, with making this Ramappa dossier, we all worked together, and he really worked very hard to make this dossier. Number of times the drafts were rechecked and doing again and again. It's a real hard work that has been carried out. So I feel that they deserve the first level They are the first level team, the first level of accolades to these three great personalities. Archaeological Survey of India, that is ASI, the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, has placed Ramappa, the case of Ramappa Temple, and they were through and through working for Ramappa to get this recognition. Then Telangana Heritage Department, it has given all support, cooperation, and worked day and night to get this recognition. And Site Monitoring Authority Board, that is also because the property, it is not just a temple, it is the entire property that has to be understood properly and then proposed. Then ICOMOS, that is International Council of Monuments and Sites, they were also supportive and they were with us working for this monument and recognition. And Kakatiya Heritage Trust, as I said, we are all the members of Kakatiya Heritage Trust. We were continuously working. And they were there since 20 years or more. And I have joined about 5 to 6 years back and worked with them. So with all our efforts, we prepared a wonderful book on the Ramappa Temple, a full-fledged huge book, a scholarly book. And this volume, a digital copy, has been handed over to the ICOMOS expert who had visited Ramappa Temple and prepared the report and submitted to UNESCO. So this is the visit of ICOMOS expert, the UNESCO delegation to Ramappa Temple before the recognition. So now we come, this is the background. I just wanted to give you, some of you know what it is, but for some youngsters, who want to know more about it, I thought of, putting it a background and how we got this particular recognition. And the next meeting, when it was on 26th, it was Dolavira, another great site of India that is belonging to Indus Valley, connected to that period, was also recognized. So it was like a bumper recognition for India. 39th and 40th recognition we got for in 2021. So now let us go with the art traditions of Rudreshwara, or what we call it as popularly Ramappa Temple. And this is how you see the aerial view of Ramappa Rudreshwara Temple and the entire property. And beyond that hillock, you see the huge lake, that is Ramappa Lake. So let us come to the Kakatiya art traditions. Who are these Kakatiyas? And how important is their rule became to make Ramappa as such a great monument in this part of the world. So Kakatiyas ruled Telangana 300 years. So from 11th century to 14th century. That was the period they ruled Telangana, because in those days, Telangana and Karnataka were very closely connected. Maybe they are more closer to Karnataka than Andhra. I feel, always Telangana was sandwiched between Andhra and Karnataka. But they also had a great history and enriched culture, which was due to be recognized. So having a separate state as Telangana, I think now they got that kind of recognition, what they deserved for centuries. So this is what, Kakatiyas, they ruled this part of, South India, the Deccan, in 11th to 14th century. And they built many temples. In this map, you can see these are all the sites, temple sites of Warangal. They are called as Kakatiya, the Kakatiyas of Warangal. when you open the pages of history, Indian history, they are recognized as Kakatiyas of Warangal. That means to say they ruled from Warangal. So they built many temples and they are all great monuments. Rudreshwara temple with Veistambalu Mantapa, that is in Hanumakonda, and today we call it as Hanumakonda, which is closer to Warangal fort. There, another Rudreshwara temple was built before the Ramappa, that is Rudreshwara temple. So all of you know about the Toruna, the gates of fort of Warangal. And if you see that whole site, the way, the units of the temple, they are all lying in that area. I wonder, I stood and first time when I visited, because I knew all those things, but I had not visited that Warangal site. When I visited that fort site, I stood and visualized if they would have completed this temple. Probably in India, you cannot match that temple in size, in grandeur, in art traditions, in themes, and whatnot. So that did not happen, but with the fragmented, incomplete form itself, it's so beautiful. So this is the fort temple, that is the Toruna Gates at Warangal. So in history, art history, we dedicate a independent style, which is known as Telangana style of art and architecture, contributed by Kakatiyas of Warangal. That is how, finally, by 12th century, Kakatiyas had their own style. Although originated from Kalyan Chalukyas, they became independent politically, also independent in their stylistic features as architecture. Now we come to the Reddys, who were one of the very important subordinates and who were the generals, military generals of Kakatiyas. They are known as Reddys of Racherla and Pilamari. And there were many, many Samantas. Among them, Reddys of Racherla topped in all positions in their, flavor and in their taste, the choicest and the wonderful way of looking at life. We learn many things from Racherla Rudra's inscription. So that is what Racherla Rudra stood as a tall personality figure. So the great living Kakatiya Rudreshwara temple, because many monuments, they remain only as monuments, not as living temple. When you visit some of the monuments, they are in ruins, and they are called as only monuments. But this Rudreshwara temple, we called it in our dossier as Great Living Kakatiya Rudreshwara Temple. So it is a living temple. Let's see, if it has to be a living temple, what are the requirements for that? How can you call it as a living temple? So that we will see in the next, part of it. So Kakatiya, the Racherla Rudra, who was he? He was the commander-in-chief of Kakatiya king, the famous Ganapati Deva, who was a great king of Kakatiyas, and Racherla Rudra was the Senapati of this Ganapati Deva. And he built this temple in 1213 Common Era at Palampet. And what is this Palampet? It was the last military outpost of Kakatiya's army. You can see in this map, Palampet is at the end. It's the last. post of the military outpost of Kakatiyas. And temple is known by the name of Sthapati Ramappa. See, Rudreshwara is the actual name in the inscription. There is no name as Ramappa Temple in the inscription. And the name the Ramappa, when it must have emerged. So people say that, the oral tradition mentions that the Sthapati was Ramappa. We are not very sure of that because we don't have any evidences. As historians, it is difficult for us to accept that fact that we don't have any inscriptional or literary evidences to prove that this is a Ramappa by name Sthapati was living at that time. The same problem is with Hoysala temples. We call that Jakanachari, who has constructed all Hoysala temples. We don't find the name of Jakanachari anywhere. Other than Jakanachari, there are many names of sculptors we get under the panel of sculptures in Belur, Halebid, Somnathpur, Nuggehalli, so many. You find so many names, more than 100 names of the sculptors and architects, but not even one as Jakanachari. So there is so much of discourses whether we should accept that or not. So historians say that we cannot accept it, but cultural historians or the people who are connected with the cultural studies, they respect oral tradition also. Even UNESCO respects oral tradition. If the name remains even till today, then there must be some kind of truth in it. So why we should not accept it? So that is the question. So according to that kind of understanding, culturally we can frame Ramappa. Maybe he was a Sthapati, or he was the one who commissioned the lake, Ramappa Lake. So this Ramappa is connected somehow or the other with the lake or with the temple, whatever. So another interesting feature, see, I'm just connecting all the traditions connected to Ramappa Temple. One of the tradition is Cheruvu tradition, which is so culturally oriented in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. That is why you have huge lakes. They look like sagar. They look like oceans. That is the reason you don't have any water problem in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Even if there is drought, there is no rains, you need not worry. These lakes, survive, sustain. They are the best example for sustainability of water sources and water resources. Telangana has to be proud of it. And the Kakatiyas were responsible for this. So this Cheruvu cultural tradition is associated with so many things around it. Still, I think a proper documentation and cultural aspects of this Cheruvus has to be studied. Still, scope is there for further study because it is economically viable, it is the source for people to live, and it is like a live wire of the people. So it has to be studied. And I think there is a great scope for youngsters to work on this particular subject. So it was this was the entire Kakatiya style is known as an architectural tradition. They evolved with their own architectural tradition. The best example is Ramappa Temple today, which is surviving in its full sense. Otherwise, we have so many temples, but most of them are in various, dilapidated conditions or half, or you can say that, complete temple concept we get only from the Ramappa Temple. So Rudreshwara Temple It's a glorious living Kakatiya temple, as I mentioned. So what are the things, parameter that is governing the Rudreshwara as a concept, as a living tradition, as such a great monument and such a great UNESCO World Heritage Site? So it has 4 components. It is like a sacred space. A temple is not just for worshipping, it is a sacred space. The entire complex is a sacred space. So the 4 things which are governed is architecture, sculpture, rituals, dance. These are the 4 things connected. So when all these 3 come into a process, they converge here with ritual significance. That is what you see in Ramappa Temple. Let us see the unique features of Rudreshwara Temple architecturally. It evolved from Kalyan Chalukyan style of architecture. Already it has existed in Karnataka, northern part of Karnataka. And this is like a source. Kalyan Chalukyan temple architecture, sculptural tradition is like a source from where you have Kakatiya emerge as a great style, Hoysala emerges as a style, Sevunas another style, Santara another style, and to certain extent Kalachuri also. So like this one source has given so many directions and dimensions. We have such tradition. So it emerged as Kakatiya style of architecture under Rudra Deva. Rudra Deva of Kakatiyas, under him, Kakatiya architecture became independent style. Till then, they were leaning most of the time towards Kalyan Chalukyan, sources. From the time of Rudra Deva, that is why you have Anumakonda Rudreshwara temple is an independent Kakatiya style of architecture. The surviving Kakatiya architecture in complete form is Rudreshwara temple, that is Ramappa temple. And it is contemporaneous to Kalyana Chalukya, Hoysala and Sevuna styles of architecture. So we call it as medieval temple architectural styles. So Kakatiya art and architecture fall under medieval temple architectural styles. So what are the architectural features to continue? You have the ground plan like this, Rudreshwara. If you study this ground plan, and we usually take the ground plan and correlate on the site and see, any deviation is there in the plan or anything we can add. So we just study this. This has been given by ASI much earlier, but it remains as a guideline for all people who study intensely on architecture. So there are 3 entrances, east, south, and north. And the molded Jagati is the platform. It raises 6 feet, 4 inches. And when you go around, it is 139 feet long. That is where, we made it as such a great dimension and size of the temple. And the Kakshasana, taller, having 3 layers of Adhisthana decorations. Kakshasana is the seating place, which I'll show you later. And that is where it has, you can say that it is taller, quite taller, and comfortably people can sit on this Kakshasana. Sanctum is at the west. You can see the sanctum there. It is at the west. And the presiding majestic Shivalingam, that is Rudreshwara. And before that, in front of this entire structure, you have a Nandi Mantapa. And both, if you look at synthesizing them, it highlights the eastern part of Kakatiya, this Rudreshwara temple. What is more interesting, and even the people who recommended for inscription were so surprised that one temple can have 5 types of material used. This is the universal value they appreciated. So Rudreshwara has unique material cultural tradition. So what is that? And it is also, it displays structural stability. As you have seen, many other temples have fallen because structurally they are not stable. And this has shown the stability structurally. So they have 5 materials used. One is indigenous sandbox technology for foundation. Foundation, this is very unique only to Kakatiya, and that to Ramappa and Hanumakonda, that is Veistambalu Mantapa. These two have the sandbox technology used as the foundation. In most of the places, you have the foundation, the stone, rubbles, and other things are filled, and then the foundation raises. And here you have the sandbox fabricated, and then it has been created as the foundation. Why they did this? To see that it resists any kind of earthquakes. So that is one plus point. Secondly, the superstructure is carefully restored, reinventing lightweight, porous floating bricks. This was a great surprise to the international experts. How Indians thought about this, lightweight bricks, because they wanted to see that if many times they build huge, putting tons and tons of stones on the Garbhagriha, then it falls definitely. You're not very sure how much it takes the weight. So they thought about it and they created lightweight. That is the research done by our Professor Pandrangarauji. He has proved how the lightweight they have created the bricks and how they are used in Ramappa Temple. And thirdly, thoughtful use of original dolerite. You must have seen in Ramappa Temple the black stone. You think that the black stone is used for carvings and chiselings and making the bracket figures. This is known as dolerite. Very hard stone, but look at the way how they have used this stone tracting to the chisel, to the minute form. I'll show you some of the pictures, then you will appreciate them. And granite is also used for pillars and basement slabs. And sandstone is another stone, type of stone used as structural material. And they are pale pink. You must have seen the bitti, that is the wall, portion of the temple, which is pink in color. So the bitti, the pillars, the ceilings, for that they have used sandstone. See, 5 types of material used in only one temple. I think this is the only existing example for using 5 materials. Another interesting feature here is the space. The spatial concern brings relationship between. When you think or visualize a space, what do you? So it is like the sculptural tradition depended on this concept: architecture, sculpture, dance, and rituals. What are the themes used in carving these, whether it is the beams or ceilings or the pillars? They have used themes from Shiva Purana, Bhagavata, and Ashtadikpalakas. Beautiful chiseling and such proportionate sculptures of Ashtadikpalakas with their concerts and parivaras in dancing mode. That is more interesting. They are not just standing as static figures. They are all in dancing mode. I'll show you those pictures. Then human features represent local ethnic people. All these bracket figures and some of the, the sculptures that you find on the walls, they are not like, Gandharvas or, Kinnaras and Kimpurushas. They are not like that. They resemble most of the tribes and local people of that time. That is what is interesting, the socio-cultural aspect of Ramappa Temple. And 12 bracket sculptures, Madanikas, they are known as. They are elongated stature, slender, not stocky. When you see Belur Madanikas or Shilabalikas, they are 42 in number. They are stocky. They look like, heavy. Of course, they are beautiful. But when you see the anatomy, they look like, stocky figures. And you feel that, they are overburdened with the jewelry or their attire. But Ramappa, these 12 bracket figures are not like that. They are slender, elongated, and such beautiful movements as though they have just, started their dancing and in that kind of, celebrating themselves. They are not representing any gods and goddesses. That was not the intention at all. So the expression of the entire figure makes you wonder such human proportion and skin tone exist. Look at the way, it was carved in 12th century, but even today, it looks like just polished. Even bronze will not give you that kind of, a smooth and such tone. And these bracket figures give you. So sometimes you wonder such human proportion existed. Definitely. Because I experienced around people coming and, visiting. I used to sit and watch them in the morning before my photographer comes and people are ready. I sit and watch, every person coming there, and you have such women even now. I was so surprised to see that height and that skin tone. Though they are black, jet black, but there is a beauty in that blackness. So that is what, I really appreciated, that kind of, human figure there. So there are 26 Gajakesari Valas, 12 bracket figures, and 26 Gajakesari Vala figures. And they are so valorous. When you look at them, even if you are not having that kind of attitude in your mind, you become like, let me also take some weapon and go along with them. So that kind of, valorous feeling and patriotic feeling, the Rashtra concept you get looking at them. This is the exteriors of Ramappa Temple. We call it as Ramappa Complex. It's not just one temple. It has several temples and dilapidated Asthana Mantapa, huge one, which they are going to reconstruct. They have kept them, so, taking out and, numbering them, and they have very systematically placed. If you go and see the site, and once it start restoring and reconstructing, that will be a great, Asthana Mantapa again. So this is the very interesting is Shasana Mantapa. Most of the temples and we see in most of the culture, there will be slab which will have the inscription, or the inscription will be on the walls of the temple. But only in Kakatiyas, they have a pillar inscription and it will be placed in a mandapa, giving a separate place. And people before coming to the temple, they will go and read this whole, Shasana, and then they come. So it was installed by Racherla Rudra in 1213. And one verse I just want to highlight here. On the top of the temple shines distinctly a golden cupola, that is Kalash, illuminating the entire space. Imagine in those days, inscription says that a Kalash which was kept on the top of the Shikhar you see that the entire space illuminated with that golden kapoor. So that was the way, so beautifully the temple was completed and Pratisthapana Vidhi has taken place. And the whole, it's a very lengthy inscription, which is very important historically. And this is the Rudreshwara, the great Shivalinga. And in those days, the medieval age was dominated by Kalamukha and Pashupata. These are the two sects of Shaivism dominated. But earlier to that, we have Lakulisha and Kapalika and other sects also. But during this period, Kakatiya period, it was mainly Kalamukha and Pashupata cult of Shaivism. And Kakatiyas followed Shaivism. Next to Shaivism, they also supported Jainism. And they built many temples dedicated to Shiva. And all the sculptural art, the tradition embellished the Shaiva themes. That is why so interesting things you find in these temples. So later you see the Veerashaivism was included in ritual process. This is very interesting. This is what we presented in our UNESCO dossier also. The universal value, the continuity of the ritual tradition which started then and even today it is followed. There is no discontinuity at all. So you have Veerashaivism, there is a priest who comes and perform the rituals according to Veerashaiva Vidhi. Then another Shaiva Siddhanta tradition coming from the Sringeri Mutt, he also comes and performs. You won't find any clash between them. Both will do the one part of the day this Veerashaiva rituals takes place, the other part of the day this Shaiva Siddhanta rituals takes place. This is another, great, that kind of, harmonious understanding of the importance of Shaivism is something, which exhibits the value system of those days coming to the present times. So this is the Vimana portion of Rudreshwara temple. It is almost 40 feet and it has the brick. You can see that top portion, it is brick Tritala and it is known as the Vesara style of Vimana. We have three major architectural styles, that is Dravida, Vesara, Nagara. Dravida is all the southern part of what we see is Dravida style of architecture. In that we have early Dravida and later Dravida. So also in the Nagara, northern Kalinga, there is another development. You find both early and later development. And in Vesara, it is the medieval. In the middle part, you find both some aspects of Nagara and some aspects of Dravida has been taken and amalgamated and brought to a beautiful, it's not admixture, but it has been treated with a conscious understanding of these styles. So this is what we see. The slender pilasters, you can see the wall portion and the decorations and those three niches. Beautiful when you go and see personally that in all the three sides, you have this Vimana decorated with this kind of decorations. This is one side of the Ramappa temple with the Valas and also the bracket figures. These are the actual bracket figures, the Madanikas, and one of the example here. You will see more and more later. And this is the Vala figure I was talking to you. It is known as Gajakesari because there is an elephant. On the elephant, who is riding? It is the Vala, that is lion. It's a decorative form of lion. It is, overpowering the elephant, or both of them friendly way of, so it shows that, such valorous, attitude or atmosphere is created around. So they are such beautiful, and they also helped to preserve, restore, conserve, giving the strength to the architecture. They are not just decorative piece. They have strengthened that part of architecture also. So these are the, I said 4 entrances. You have, each entrance has 4 bracket figures. So they are 12 for the 3 entrances. And in between spaces, Kakshasanas, you have these Vala figures. Very nicely, systematically, scientifically, they have divided. So this is the interior view of Ramappa Temple. I mentioned you about the Kakshasana, the seating arrangement. That is one of the speciality of this place, that it is very broad. In Kalyan Chalukyan temples, one person can, with great difficulty, sit. It's shorter space, but whereas here, 3 rows of people can comfortably sit. So when the Shivaratri festival held, we all sat on this Kakshasana and watching the Shivaratri festival. So it is an experience that everyone has to go and, be part of this particular. It's an intangible heritage of Shivaratri Mahotsav. So this is what is Ramappa, the central place, central hall. So it is a Telangana pattern of square hall. In our architectural language, we call it as Telangana pattern. It gets that name, known as Telangana pattern of square hall with 95 feet across. Imagine what is the size of that hall. And it is huge pillared hall, which has 3 parts. What are those 3 parts? Large, spacious Sabha Mantapa. Entire place, it is spacious and it is Sabha Mantapa. Center, you see the circular platform. That is what is known as the Rangamantapa, that is the square hall. And in the central, you have the Ranga Bhumika. That is the place where the ritual dances and special rituals of the temples are performed. And pale pink stone used to build most parts of the ceilings except the central one. Central one is dolerite, the black stone which I mentioned. And central ceiling and beams are the exclusive part of Ramappa Temple. Now this is, look at the doorway. This is the Antarala. Antarala is a space between the entrance and to the Garbhagriha. So there will be about 8 to 10 feet before entering the Garbhagriha. There will be space. That is Antarala. So this is Antarala entrance, and this is also dolerite. Shivalinga is dolerite. See how beautifully they match the colors of the material also. And now this is the entrance to Antarala, which is called as Makara Toruna. It's an architrave, huge architrave, beautiful, and each part is a piece of art. You can, if you take one and look at it, that itself is an art. So like that, you have the sketch here. One of our researchers had done intensive sketch of that. It took quite some time for her to sit and work on this. Because whenever I go for such serious study, I take one artist with me. Because architectural drawing is different. It is measured and that is for different purpose. But random sketches, live, it brings life. So in a book, all photographs is monotonous. So if you introduce this kind of sketches, it gives the human touch. So I take artists with me, though they are also PhD holders. They know what is line, they know what is space, they understand the every motif of it. They are part of research team. So this is done by Dr. Soumya Manjuna, and she worked on this, the Toruna. And I'll explain you a little detail. So this is one part of the Toruna. You see the close-up of that and the dance movements. And this dancer who is giving the pose is not just a dancer, she is a researcher. She is a PhD. I guided her for her PhD in studying Deshi Karanas and Deshi styles of dance. She studied extensively in Nritya Ratnavali. We went there, both of us, we worked on that. To come to this particular posture, what is the antecedent and precedent movements for that? If you just stand like this, it will not have life. Definitely sculptors have not created that way. They would observe the every movement and they catch the fleet and capture that particular movement and arrest it and then chisel. This is what, to show you one example, all these dancing figures and musicians are performing here, and Dr. Vidya is also performing here. It's a joy to perform in that place. And this is what is Bhavani Ramalingeshwara Kalyana Mahotsava. That is on Shivratri day. This is all the things, what happens on Shivratri day. And the Ramappa Temple, a quite old temple, transforms into full of life. It's an experience to be there. So this is the marriage. And what is interesting is the panel which I have put there is the sculptural beam panel where the Girija Kalyana is happening. See, Girija is given in marriage to Shiva, and it is happening there. Whereas under that canopy, actual Kalyana takes place, even today. What a kind of, visualization these people had. So that's why, I gave this visualization in dossier. It was celestial then, but now mortal, the people, we are all going and performing the marriage of Shiva and Parvati here under that canopy. So that is human value, continuous, the socio-cultural values. So this is one of the sequence going on, and the documentation team, we are documenting every bit of it, discussing with all the priests. And one thing what our ethics is, we should not disturb anybody, but we should be working for observing and all those things. And this is the central ceiling. Mesmerizing, I called it in my book as mesmerizing space. So if you go and stand there, you will not know how long you can stand there. It is such a great place. This is the place, you see the Ashtadikpalas are dancing. Each corner slab, triangle slab, has the Ashtadikpala Parivaras, and they are dancing with the Parivaras. And what is there in the center? This is the layers and layers of central ceiling. You can see that, these are all dancers, and the theme from Shiva Purana, the musicians. And at the center, you have Shiva dancing with so many apsaras and dancers. That is the close-up of Shiva dancing. Such a wonderful piece. I have seen several ceilings in my study, but this has a unique feature to, Now we come to the last part, more or less, that is dance traditions. So we have seen the sculptural tradition, architectural tradition, material culture tradition, Cheravu culture tradition, and we come to the dance traditions. Dance sculptures, you find 6 feet, which are bracket figures, and 6 feet, which are on the pillars. So 6 feet to 6 inches, you find the dancing figures. And we roughly calculated around, and we got around 280 dance images approximately in this particular temple. So we were wondering whether they constructed only for dance tradition. Probably they were interested to document of the, even in Karnataka, Belur, many times we feel that Belur is a temple meant for dance purpose. In my first thesis, I have very elaborately covered Belur dance tradition, the medieval tradition. So here you see the Natya Shastra. There are 2 things are represented there. One is Margi, the other one is Deshi. Margi is Natya Shastra tradition, which is Sthanakas, Charis, Karanas, Pindibandras. These are all the technical terms which are related to the Angika, the bodily movements, the process. Similarly, we also have Deshi, regional. Deshi means not many things people say folk. It is not folk. It is regional to that region, which is popular and practiced, customary to that region, is Deshi tradition like Sthanaka, Charis, Karanas, Hastas. We have many. So there are references in Nritya Ratnavali and other texts about Gaundali, Yogini Natya, Perani Natya. These are all references are there in our texts of that period. So some of the dance traditions represent all these in Ramappa Temple. We find these Deshi traditions. These were the practicing dance traditions in South India, not only in Telangana. It was practiced in South India. Across many states ruling in those days. And which are the texts of that period? Manasollasa, Sangita Ratnakara, and Nritya Ratnavali. See, Manasollasa has got 100 adhyayas. Dance has one of the adhyaya. Sangita Ratnakara has 7 chapters. The last chapter is on dance. But Nritya Ratnavali is the first independent text only on dance. There are 8 chapters, 4 chapters on Margi, that is Natya Shastra tradition, and 4 chapters Deshi traditions. That is why Jaya Senapati's Nritya Ratnavali is a landmark text for dance researchers. If they don't study that, they have not understood dance at all, Indian dance. So Jayappa Senani's Nritya Ratnavali documents the Deshi dance styles, and all that we try to see whether it correlates with the Ramappa Temple. It definitely correlates with Ramappa Temple. There is a period gap after constructing Ramappa Temple. 50 years later, Nritya Ratnavali is written. That means to say Ramappa is first, Nritya Ratnavali is later. But probably Ramappa is inspired Jaya Senapati because he was very young at that time. And it has inspired him to work on Nritya Ratnavali. And whatever of those days, probably some, Natyacharya would have been during the construction of the Ramappa Temple, was a great consultant for these dance sculptures. So those practicing traditions, Jaya Senapati has taken it and put in his text. So this is the place, what I said, Ranga Bhumika. It's the beautiful. I have not seen such a huge, dancing platform anywhere in the temples. This is the largest one surviving. So imagine, probably the dancers are of that stature. They wanted a huge place. So probably that is the reason this huge Ranga Bhumika is there. In other temples, you have a shorter one, a smaller one. But this is not so. So to accommodate such a huge slab, one single slab of that round slab, they have pushed these 4 pillars and accommodated that slab, probably. So such a beautiful place. And Dr. Vidya, she rejoiced and danced, and we have captured some of the moments there. And this is the Nritya Seva as part of Nitya Puja Vidhi. In those days, it was the Nitya Puja Vidhi. And she also made me to dance also on that space. So we just dance for ourselves, not for people, not for anybody. Just respecting that space, that Ranga Bhumika. So this is one captured, our photographer captured this. Now we come to the Perini. Perini Natya is today, Telangana is vibrating with Perini. All of us know, how Guru Nataraj Ramakrishna Garu has started though, in the literature and other places, you have the Perini references, Natya and all that, but taking that and reconstructing that was a great challenge. And Guruji had done this. And today, his disciples like Kalakrishna Garu and others are, continuing that legacy of Perini Natya. Beautifully done. And this is one sculptural panel you have in the center, which is in Ramappa Temple pillar. Only one piece you have. People think that, there must be so many Perini panels must be there. It's not. Just one piece. But whereas in Karnataka, little earlier to this, you have Perini dancers like this, the other sculptures. In Jinanathapura, in Belur, in Halebeedu, and some Kalyan Chalukyan temples, you have the Perini dancers. That means to say Karnataka and Telangana had the Perini Natya as their Deshi tradition. It is the male form of dance. In all literature, they say it is only men has to perform this dance form. And these are the sculptures you find, I said 6 inches on the pillar, and they are in the dancing movement in a group, which is known as Pindibandra. And one of the movement, Dr. Vidya is just giving that movement. You can see the sketches and details of the pillar. Doorway figures are also, interestingly, the dancing figures. Though they appear to be the door guardians, they are all female. So you have 3 doorways, 6 door guardians, all are female, Dwarapalikas. This is another exclusive feature in Ramappa Temple. And they are all in such great movements, and which we try to see, how it goes in this particular. And this is known as Paravrata Sthanaka. Look at the way, her dress and other things, this particular sculpture, and with her 2 plates, dancing. And Vidya, Dr. Vidya has tried that movement according to Nuttaratnavali Paravrata Sthanaka. We were able to get that particular movement. And this is the Nandi Mantapa. Again, it's a great piece of art, architecture, sculpture, and you can see some of the features of that. It's an exclusive piece, space for Nandi. You know what is the importance of Nandi in Shiva temples and Shaivagamas. This is one of the, Biti, that is the wall frame, and she is performing, she is showing the movement. This is known as, we identified it as Vislishtachari, and with all the swinging movements, she comes and finally stands that way. So that is what, and it has to be ullasa. With a great kind of, joy, you should perform this particular movement. That is what Nritaratnavali also mentions. And these are the bracket figures, the Madanikas, all of them in different movement, very clear positioning of the feet, and the kati, that is the waist movement, special movements you find there. And the hand gestures also very clear, because they are very good height and long, even the hasta, the hand, is such long piece, you can, even if you, it's like my hand, if you just show the movement, it will be so clearly shown. Not like, it will not be stocky, or, it's, that's what, I like the crisp movement in all these features. The other 6 bracket figures, and they are all yoginis, and they will be in the hunting mood, huntresses, and one is Nagini holding the Naga. That is one of the cult, Nagini cult existed. We find in most of the temples, whether North or South Indian temples, we have this Nagini cult dancers. So here also we find them. And there is one, the Kapi Kupite. One, the monkey is pulling her veil, and she is showing the anger, and it is known as, even we have the same in Belur. So each one having that kind of expression, composition, and that kind of, swaying movements, which is so natural, and that is why they are so special. And this is swastika and ardha swastika. Dr. Vidya demonstrated it, the movement, and it has been captured this way. And just jewelry tradition is another exclusive study. I have dedicated one chapter for that. So you see the way the earring, I just took the earring as an example, and like that you have all kinds of ornaments. And there is a name for each and every ornament in the text, and when you correlate it, you find them here. So these are the Rajakas, they are called as the earrings. Dvirajaka, if they are 2 circles, if they are Trirajaka, if they have 3 circles, like that, each has its own name. Manasollasa lists all of them. Natyashastra lists all of them. So this is one of the very interesting jewelry tradition we have in Ramappa Temple. So just we thought, the sketch, it comes this form when you really go closer and check them, whether it is a hara or, the necklace, everything is so exquisite. So I thank the people who are with me for all the work that you can see here. The Ministry, Government of India, Ministry of Culture, Archaeological Survey of India, Government of Telangana, Department of Telangana Heritage. Then at that time, the director was Vishalakshi from the Telangana Heritage, Professor Panduranga Rao, and I have spoken about all of them. And my team, it is Vidya, Dr. Vidya Shimladka and Dr. Soumya Chavan, Shailaja Ramesh. She is also a very good artist, does very, rapid and constructive sketches, which I have used in the books also. And Dr. Gomati helped me in documenting the tangible heritage, the Shivaratri Mahotsava. We stayed there for 3 days to document the Shivaratri Mahotsava. And Rahul is my photographer. Also, Madhu Gopal Rao, who is a famous photographer from Hyderabad. His photographs also we have used in the book, and Babu from Department of Telangana Heritage. So it's a team. It's a teamwork. We all worked like a family, and I'm so happy that our efforts were paid. And people of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, they are eager to hear more and more about Ramappa Temple. I think this is my 5th lecture on Ramappa. But I don't repeat the same thing. I try to see that I give new things to each and every time. So thank you. This is one of the sealing part of it. I have dedicated one chapter on design elements in Ramappa Temple in the book. So this is the lotus. The entire temple is in the lotus form. So where you find all of them, you see the raindrops, the lotus, the everything. So this is one portion of this chajja. That is what we call it in architecture. So thank you, Vishwa Talks and Paramparaa. I think I have shared my experiences and look forward for your feedback and other things. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.
I'll take 10 minutes to close this. And after that, if anybody would like to have any question and answers answered, you can please continue. First, I would like to request you to take a 30-second survey to answer a little poll for us. The poll is to serve you in a better way so that we could get topics curated that are interesting for you. While you take this survey, I would like to say a little bit of Vishwa Talks. Vishwa Talks is a space to expand the horizons of our minds. Every webinar, we call in experts from different fields to discuss, to examine opinions, to examine issues, problems, and perspectives. Each webinar is an interactive session where we all walk away with more respect for each other and a deeper understanding of the topic at hand. Thank you, Dr. Chudamani Garu. You have mesmerized us so much. None of us could remove our eyes from what you were showing us. I have visited the Ramappa Temple so many times, but there was no guide, no one to tell us what the history was, what we need to watch for, what do we need to see. You have brought in the architectural aspects of it together. You've spoken to us about the sculpture. You have spoken to us about the different kinds of stones that have been used, and even about the sculptures, their fluidity, their expressions, the jewelry, and the different kinds that those 12 figures that you have spoken to us, and the Gajakesharis, the 26 Gajakesharis you were talking to us about. I wish I was there with you when you are visiting the temple. And I wish many people will be able to get trained to be guides at that temple from the research that all of you have brought in together. And I also wish that your books are available at the temple premises. Yes. In addition to this, I would like to thank Paramparaa Foundation for the immense work that you all are doing in safeguarding our traditions. I would also like to thank Vishwa team. You all have done a wonderful job, an impeccable job. Thank you so much. I would like to bring to your notice that Paramparaa Foundation has started a little fundraiser, because in the COVID times, a lot of artists have lost their livelihood. And the art is something that we need to cherish, nourish, respect. And these artists today have no livelihood. to ensure that they are taken care of and that we have pride in their art forms. A fundraiser is being raised for Paramparaa, where they have the Paramparaa Dance League for Kuchipudi and Bharatanatyam, where people can list out their names, artists can list out their names, and there will be some prizes. And if there are any corporates or individuals who would like to fund these prizes, please feel free to do. The intention is to give respect to these artists. So we'll be really looking forward for those of you who can to adopt this little dance league. And for those of you who would like to share it with people who can, please do share it with them. In addition to this, we have another two fundraisers. One is from Auroville. There is a lady, this is in the area of environment, a German lady born and brought up in Tamil Nadu, who has made barren land into a thick forest. It is around 50 acres of land called the Darkali Forest, where around 15 to 30 people have, with their bare hands, created it over the last 30 years. It is these people we need to respect, these social change makers. They have given their lifetime in service of our earth, of our society. And we have a duty to support these social change makers, because I don't want them to feel that their life has gone in waste. So right now what they're requesting for is a little bobcat, where, can you see, this is a lush forest that they have created. So they're looking for a little excavator which can help them in digging out these water harvesting places within the land, so that, it could retain water for these trees. So anybody, either you can do it, or a company who can fund this, or Bobcat, please feel free to ensure that this little venture is funded. Another fundraiser we are moving on is about Bal Vikas. It is at Kukatpalli. We are funding 3 speech therapists. The salaries of 3 speech therapists are being paid. So it would be really lovely if anybody could adopt for a year the salary of 1 speech therapist, who can in turn serve another 20 to 30 students. Yeah, this is what it is. Finally, I would like to thank everybody for being here, and you can continue with your questions. Thank you. I had a question which I wanted to ask. Can you tell us a little bit about the foundation? They say it is made over sand, which is very unique.
Yeah. See, in most of the temples, a traditional way of creating the foundation is open the huge pit. The size, it depends on the size of that, and then that whole pit is fabricated with the rubbles, stones, not with sand or anything. And then it is the stone, the dressed stone, is used as the fabricating the entire space. Then after that, the platform is ready, and they build the temple. But here, that kind of rubbles and other things are not there. It is sand. Sand is properly put and hardened and fabricated with the stone around. Then the adhisthana is built, and the slabs are laid on that, and the temple is built.
And it lasted for 700 years.
Yes.
800.
Yes. And sustained the earthquake. So there are records when the earthquake had taken place and all that.
Is there a science behind it, and is it recorded, the science behind it?
Yes, science behind it. They were aware of that, and our texts talk about these things. But these are the people who experimented that, probably in a small scale. And when they were successful, they made it as the larger scale, like the size of Ramapa.
There was one question from I lost her name. Anyway, thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
I was, looking at your face and inspired the way, you were responding. That gave me the inspiration.
Thank you so much.
Because you are understanding everything,
I'm very interested. I'm very interested.
That is what I like the way, you are responding to the whole lecture.
Thank you so much.
Nice. Yeah.